a trophy. That's won an award a number of years ago. You've got a number of companies, and you'll have to explain all your endeavors, but I know there's a Wiki House, there's Extraordinary Structures, you've been involved in Make Santa Fe out at Meow Wolf, but let me introduce Zane Fischer, our speaker today, from Extraordinary Structures.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I'll try to recover from dessert and remember what I was going to talk about. Zane Fischer. My company is Extraordinary Structures. I've been affiliated in a few different ways with creating a makerspace that is located in the building with Meow Wolf. So currently I'm a board member there, so that's how I'm affiliated with that. And I don't know what else you were asking me about.
Wiki House.
Oh yeah, so at my company, we're just the Santa Fe chapter for Wiki House, which is a sort of global open source construction system. And I just think that's a cool thing. So let me talk to you about that a little bit in the context of the presentation and how I think digital fabrication and open source ideas and the maker movement all might begin to intersect more commonly with architecture and construction and all the associated trades as we go forward.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Maybe. Okay, so a couple of the things that I want to focus on today. Hopefully the print is big enough. The factors that are sort of contributing to what I'm talking about are one, that tools that used to be pretty much industrial nature are now coming down to consumer use. Tools like CNC routers and plasma cutters and milling machines. And then there's a lot of new technology, of course, in the 3D printers. The consumer levels aren't anything you're going to build a house with yet, but they're pretty fascinating for a number of different applications. And people who are using these tools are quite a bit. Quite a few more people have access to these tools, so more people are using them, more people are becoming very inventive with them. And that movement is feeding into the idea that a lot of things can be open source. We think of open source as something that's mostly around software. So this is how software started in the 50s and 60s, when someone would write a computer program and ship a machine to you so that you could operate maybe some big industrial machine. They would send you the actual software. You'd have access to the original code because they knew you probably have to get in there and fix something. And then that led to more and more proprietary software. And finally, we're sort of coming back to realizing that in software, it's helpful to have a big peer group solve problems. And we're also realizing that open source can be helpful in other ways. People are open sourcing zoning, people are open sourcing constitutions, people are open sourcing all kinds of different things, including design and architecture and engineering. And when you combine these things, the tools, the maker spaces, and the maker's open source ethic, you get closer to a place where you can do a lot of prototyping. I think most of you are pretty familiar with doing a lot of iterative design and iterations of your work, but it's fun to start to manifest that faster and faster in a physical way. And then maybe all of this stuff can lead to pushing around public policy in one way or another. So just to clarify that expansion of the maker movement, you have down here 2006 the number of places that are calling themselves maker spaces or hacker spaces in the world. And now you've got over 1,400 or so as of the beginning of this year. And this is based on self-reporting, so it's probably a little bit low, but some of it's also aspirational. So we're right around there, but you can see that it's a huge increasing arc of people who are trying to put together, the way that I think of the makerspace here in Santa Fe is that it's a lot like a gym, except instead of, like stair steppers and spin cycles, you've got CNC routers and laser cutters and 3D printers and plotters and stuff like that. And instead of personal trainers, you have people working on the floor who can help you to operate those machines and transfer your files into whatever it is you're hoping to make. where do you find these people, these resources? Well, around here, you've got Make Santa Fe. In Taos, there's the Toolbox. In Las Vegas, there's a Parachute Factory. In Albuquerque, there's Q Lab, a couple of other spaces. And then a lot of your, as probably a lot of you know, small businesses like cabinet makers and sign shops are going to have some of this equipment. And then, for example, my own company, Extraordinary Structures, has a fair amount of this. What you can do in one of these spaces, I think, I'm just kind of guessing, not being an architect, you can have fun making models or different kinds of components, prints, panels, your own prototypes or products that you come up with. And if you want to have something made in one of these, usually there's an export on the kind of software that you're already going to be using to be doing construction documents and plans to export into one of the files that these machines can read. So if you want to manifest a design that already exists, that capability is probably just a click away for you guys. So open source is not just something that's for software. It's, I think, very heavily integrated into the maker culture because one, like people who are making stuff with these machines get really sort of ridiculously excited about it and they want to share. You know, someone's like, oh, I 3D printed a lid for my mason jar because I lost the old one and now I have a new one. It only took me 13 hours. And but it is pretty cool though. They've shared that and you can just download the file and print new lids for your mason jars. So there are sites, like GitHub is a site for software where people share software projects and other people can take the code and tweak it or play with it or contribute to it however they want. And increasingly there are sites for physical objects that might be made by 3D printers or laser cutters or routers, and people upload their files and they share them. And this is becoming something that's even happening in the world of houses, which is what Wiki House is, and furniture building and other design programs. So we have to wonder about how designers end up profiting from that and how their energy that they put into those designs that they share comes back to them, because you don't want to just be giving that stuff away. But it's also a really fascinating point right now where design is becoming kind of globalized and the manufacturer is becoming localized. This is a picture of the Wiki House under construction. It's looking like a big tube right now. But what it comes down to is that it's all sheet material that you can cut out on a CNC router, and anyone can download the plans for this tomorrow, essentially. You could bring it to a shop like mine or a place like Pronto Signs and just say, like, cut me out this house. The Wiki House comes first with the first things that you cut out from sheet material are a mallet and a ladder, and those are basically the tools you need in order to put it together. So the idea is that it's a fairly accessible type of thing. It's hard to say how successful they're being at their big vision of dramatic democratization and sort of global access to a printable house. But it's really fascinating to watch, and it's fascinating to see people contribute to this community and contribute to design tweaks. So we are at a Santa Fe chapter for Wiki House, but we haven't really built one yet ourselves. We're just kind of learning about that community and trying to understand how we can do that. But it's one manifestation where it's quite impressive that you get a lot of design, you get a lot of thought, you get a lot of prototyping, you get a lot of engineering effort, and you can just take that and start to play with it. They do have like a finished unit that they will build, and they're basically trying to set up a program so that if you build these, like if my company wanted to build one, that we would kick back some money to them and to the original designer. So that's one of the models that might be coming forward, right? Some way to have a centralized sort of storefront where I could download something that Miguel created and use his floor plan or his design. Somebody cuts it out in some other city, manufacture it, but he ends up getting a kickback for it, so it all works out. So we haven't built a Wiki House yet because we've been working on our own panelized construction system. So this is sort of what my company is trying to develop right now. It's a panelized construction system that might be spec'd by an architect or used by a contractor or purchased by a homeowner or property owner who wants to build something with a relatively low skill set. So we're looking at something that works very much like a SIPS panel, but I wanted to be able to use different types of insulation. I wanted to be able to work with clients who demanded a product that was pretty much no VOC, and where they could use natural insulation products or insulation products with very low embodied energy, and to think about a way where, one of the things I'm thinking about in terms of open source and freemium is a software term where you can have the software for free, but if you want to add some additional fancy features that make it more usable, you pay a little bit for that. And maybe that would be something that I could eventually do with architects, work with architects to develop a series where they've made designs based on using my panels, and somebody can have a set of, a layout for free, but if they want actual construction documents, they've got to pay for them, and then I share that money with you. I don't know, just trying to figure it out. But this is sort of the early drawings for the panel system that we've been using. Individual panels that drop onto a base plate and then key together, and they're joined by a top plate, and then a thermal wrap outside of that, and a steel exoskeletal system that holds up siding. So we just completed a prototype. We built a tiny house because that seems to be really popular, and people are excited about this stuff. So we thought we'd do one. We did one on a trailer because so we could haul it around and show it off and take it up to this meeting in August in Colorado that I think about 40,000 people attended last year. And we just had an open house showing this finished product, and we had about maybe 600 people show up. So people are at least curious about tiny houses. I don't know if they really want them, but they want to see them. Here's the sort of the next level where you can see the house wrap is on, and the vertical lines, hopefully you can see, is the steel exoskeletal system that we use. And then you can see this with a wrap of mineral wool on the outside and steel siding beginning to go up. We worked on this system, the wall panels and the siding, with a couple of engineers from Los Alamos, which is really cool. There's a small business assistance program where you can apply and get a certain amount of hours, about $25,000 worth of the annual salary from scientists or engineers at Los Alamos if you're trying to develop a product. And it's a good time because, among other things, you can tell that they're really excited to be working on something completely different. So to get some engineers and break them out of their mold was a lot of fun. And just to work with people that nerdy who really want to talk about the details of like CNC router deflection. One of the guys had his keys, he kept clipped to his collar. It's amazing. It's a special engineer thing. Anyway, here you can see our little prototype, tiny house on a trailer, pretty much fully clad. Again, it's 22 gauge steel, so it will rust. We knew that this house was going to live out its life in New Mexico, so no need to use Cortan or anything like that. We just don't really have the humidity. So just a regular 22 gauge steel that we had sheared and bent at Reliance and Albuquerque for us. We actually worked with Anna at Architectural Windows and Doors to source some beautiful Western windows, a nice extra tall door, and put a lot of light into this small space to make sure that it feels good inside, because it's about 200 square feet overall. We have, I don't know how easy it is to tell, there's an asymmetrical roof line, or in a New England vernacular, a salt box style. I think that brings a little charm to the building, but one of the other reasons why we did that, working on such a narrow platform being confined by the trailer, is so that the long side that the door is on, which I would position to the south, is just exactly the right height for a super cool sun-powered solar system. This is a little shot of the interior from one side, looking at the kitchen and the bathroom of the tiny house. And you can see that we chose not to finish the interior walls in this because this is our prototype and our example. So when people come in, they can see the panels that we cut on a CNC router, that sort of six-like panelized construction system that we use. So you can see little finger joints. And these are 2-foot panels because that seems about when it's efficient use of easy to get material, and it's an easy size for a couple of people to handle without developing need for back surgery or anything. And then this is looking the other way. Again, those beautiful western windows were really nice, and it's really great to work with a lot of local people in this project. Couple mechanical, western windows. The floor is end-cut mesquite from old wood. Really like those guys too. Anyway, we made this pretty little house and learned a lot about what it is to try to create a panelized construction system from scratch. Learned a lot about how what happens when the immaculate precision of computer model design meets the real world, especially when you're trying to put it on a trailer. So that was exciting. And I'm really fascinated by not really tiny houses, but the idea of building a lot smaller. I've realized over the last few years, after building with Autotrope a 1,300 square foot house, and then I rented one of those RVs and drove around the West, and I kept thinking like, smaller is great, it's too big. I realized I can live in a really, really small house as long as I have about a 6,000 square foot shop. But so I'm really fascinated by the possibility, especially when I look at Santa Fe, because I love my city here, and I'm always very concerned about what's happening. We have a housing problem, we have a housing shortage, but as a community on the whole, we're very resistant to, say, large multifamily projects or anything that we think might disrupt our fabric here. And we obviously have, in some ways, protecting what we have here has really benefited us, and in some ways it's hurt us, and we have to figure out as a community how to go forward and solve these. And sometimes one of the things we can do to add to supply, and I've been talking with the committee put together by one of the current city councilors, and I think a resolution is coming forward to change the way that the city looks at accessory dwelling units and to incentivize them and create some new opportunities around encouraging people to add accessory dwelling units. So I think that's a win on a lot of fronts because we can add to the housing supply without hopefully upsetting too many Santa Feans, because we do have, by and large, have a decent amount of respect for the idea that someone could be able to build a small something on their own lot, and that they can use that as rental income, or mother-in-law, or whatever they need to. That ultimately contributes to property tax. And if we're truly incentivized, hopefully it contributes to new opportunities for everybody in this room, right? I think for Santa Fe, that's one of the solutions. So, and I think that when you combine that with the possibility of digital fabrication, maybe we create a situation where we can start dropping units into people's backyards in a pretty fast, easy way, right? One of the things that might put people off about adding an ADU in their backyard is the idea of, 6 months of construction workers and a porta potty and all this stuff, and whether that's going to bother them or bother their neighbors. If we can make this a pretty clean, fast surgical process, aided by digital manufacturing, I think that can end up having an impact. If we can cluster these things together in a way that's cute enough for Santa Fe, I think we can create pocket neighborhoods that are really vital communities in and of themselves. and look at a different kind of way of approaching density for a different kind of city. And then again, I would hope that whether it's my system or somebody else's or everyone, that maybe there's a way for architects to think about the distributed model of design and have some products, so that you can continue to work one-on-one with clients who have challenging, exciting, individual houses and buildings that need to be worked on. But how could we set up a way so that architects can create some simple products? They can brand them with their name, and we can get them out there. And you may not end up working with the builder, but hopefully the construction documents are good enough that the houses are turning out well. So I'd like to see so one of the things we're working on, ADU ordinance. Don't tell. Don't tell David. Just kidding. Is taking away the requirement that an ADU would have to match the existing styling, for example. Obviously, that would be the case in historic, and homeowners associations can still control whether a new structure would have to match the existing style. But it doesn't seem like at a municipal level we need to add that additional regulation. One of the things that I think we're seeing happen in communities that have incentivized ADUs, like Portland, is that it's creating a renewed energy and excitement about architecture. People who are homeowners who want to have a new building in their backyard are really getting excited about engaging architects and creating a building that's something new and different for them, because they probably bought an existing house. And so to me, that would be really exciting in Santa Fe if that could be a mechanism by which we get to see a bunch of you guys really sort of exercising your creative muscles to make buildings that complement, contrast, and bring new sort of excitement to Santa Fe. So I think that's a possibility. These are some resources. Wiki House, Open Desk, 100K Garages, Open Making, Pocket Neighborhoods, Accessory Buildings, the Makerspace, makesantafe.org. You can find out what tools are available there when it's open. Soon we'll have a reservation system up so you can reserve time on the CNC router or the laser cutter, not show up and have some wolf kid busy cutting up dinosaurs on it or something like that. And I hopefully will wrap up quick, and maybe we can chat just casually about some stuff. You guys are into that. This is me. I'm easy to find. We do have a fancy CNC router and a plasma cutter as well. So we're also happy to talk to you guys if you need panels or custom design things or fancy bits cut for new projects that we're working on. We can help you figure that out. Any questions? Yeah.
Is there any way to look at the tiny house with the prototype that you created?
Yeah, you can look at quite a few photos. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can come and visit us. We're on All Trades Road off of Siler, and the prototype will be going to a new home in a few weeks. So me and all my employees are going to 3D modeling camp tomorrow for about a week. But then after that, after the 20th of June, you're welcome to come by. We are working on another project off-site. We're using this panel system that we developed to put in sort of a backyard studio for someone. That's fun for us because it's our first CID permitted project using this panelized construction system, so that helps us sort of increase the credibility of what we've been developing. So we're not always at the shop, but if you get in touch with me, I'd be happy to show you anytime.
Have you done anything with 3D printing components or pieces or parts that become part of a building?
Yeah, a little bit. The frustrating thing about the consumer accessible 3D printers is the time that it takes. But it's a very small detail in this prototype house, but so a CNC router has a round bit on it basically, and whenever you do an inside corner cut, you leave what's called a little dog bone. And when we create our panels and put them together with fender joints, you have a bunch of tiny little holes. So, and in this case, we wanted to leave our panels exposed, but not necessarily have open holes going to the insulation. And also, in this case, we decided to use a sheet spool, an actual sheet spool insulation, and it's treated with a protein to make it unappealing to moths, but still whiten holes, right? So we actually 3D printed bags that filled every single one of those holes. So we were going to do it maybe in like glow-in-the-dark filament, but that seemed a little crazy. Yes, sir.
Zane, question for you. The rendering that you showed, and you mentioned that it would be an existing house that you brought your tiny unit in and used for whatever. I mean, whether it's mother-in-law's quarters, kids returning, those type of things. Have you looked at a kind of a typical city lot to put multiple tiny units on? And
Yeah.
what's the resistance that you've seen? Do you see the city being open to this type of conversation?
I think that right now the city is very open to that type of conversation. I think that they're looking for solutions because I think the policymakers and the city leadership have realized that we need to increase housing supply. I think that, of course, they're going to continue to be cautious stewards of Santa Fe and what we think is a traditional lifestyle here, but I think that they know that they need to be more proactive. So I think they're very open to that. There may be ways to talk about accessing the density bonus, even if you're not building an official affordable housing project, but if your price is coming in at the right point, which it might be able to for tiny structures, maybe you could take advantage of the density bonus automatically. We're looking at a parcel right now, relatively centrally located, where we could do 14 units and a common area. So that would be an exciting project for me to engage in. And of course, we have to come up and find some of you guys to help with that too.
So when you say they're open to the conversation, they being who, and this property that you're looking at, how large is that piece of property that you're looking at?
Yeah, well, I think both the city councilors and then your planning and land use department seem to be excited about it, seem to be willing to just come to the table with a lot of enthusiasm and try to find solutions instead of try to find blockades. There are a couple of them that you know who they are. And then yeah, we're looking at a piece of property that's 2 acres.
Can you talk a little bit about the fabrication of your panels? I'm sure you're building scale now, and are you mechanized or are you hand fabricating the panels?
Yeah, so the panels are all cut. Right now we're using a product called Pure Bond, which is a fancy plywood with a soy bonder, and essentially building boxes with finger joints. And we cut all the components on a CNC router. So we create a digital file, and we're working with some of the same softwares that you guys are familiar with, and some of the APIs, so that we're getting close. Actually, this is one of the things we're hoping to solve when we go to computer modeling camp next week. We're getting closer to be able to say, okay, we want a 20-foot building, a 30-foot building with this pitch of roof, and hit the button and have that appear in our 3D modeling software. And from there, it's pretty fast to do a couple of details and then export that into a cutting toolpath that our router can understand and cut out our sheet material. So, but right now, to do one 2-foot by 8-foot panel, it takes us about 25 minutes to cut it, and maybe 10 to 15 minutes to assemble it.
Got one more question?
How much did you spend on the tiny house?
The materials for that tiny house came out to $50,000. So to build everything. It's a really fancy tiny house. It's It's on a very fancy trailer that a company in Colorado purposely built for tiny houses. So it has a rim to put your base plate down on. It has a well thought out sort of volume for insulation in the bottom. So it's a little fancier than like a Craigslist trailer would be. So we're getting for something that's essentially 2x4 construction on a trailer, we're getting an R35 in the floor and the ceiling and R20 in the walls. But yeah, it has, you know, it's got very nice windows, but they weren't cheap. It's got a beautiful floor that wasn't cheap. It has a ridiculously expensive tiny wood stove in it. You know, it's got a fancy refrigerator. So a lot of things were fancy because we really wanted a showroom.
All right, one more.
For that 200 square foot house, if we throw in the design and well over $300. But as you guys know, also it's like raw square footage is not really what's expensive. It's kitchens and bathrooms and roofs. So yeah, I can make a 400 square foot one for not much more. Maybe 600 square foot one for not much more for that matter. So.
Okay, well.
Thank you all.